Yes, sir. And we are back. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 4 of Noel's podcast. I am the host, Noel Tesfa. And you guys already know, peace and blessings to everyone that's tapped in. Wishing you guys a happy weekend. Hopefully, your health is doing well. You know, health is wealth, mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, all the healths. Hopefully, everyone's doing good on that front. If you guys are going out this weekend, if you have any plans, make sure to stay safe and just don't do anything too crazy. I know it's the weekend, y'all want to get lit, but don't do anything too crazy. But of course, still have fun and enjoy yourselves. Hopefully, this podcast and this episode is a part of your weekend plans because I do have another good episode lined up for you guys today. First, we're going to be talking Game 6, Boston, Philly. Philly takes the W, forces a Game 7 in Boston on Saturday. That should be a good one. We're going to talk that. We're going to break that game down a little bit, and then I'm going to give you guys my overall thoughts and more specifically, my thoughts on Mr. Joel Embiid. So we'll do that. Then we'll discuss Game 6, Timberwolves, Nuggets. Minnesota gets them boys out of here. They eliminate Denver for good from these playoffs in Game 6. They take the W. They go on to face OKC in the second round. So we'll talk Minnesota, Denver, Game 6, what this means for Minnesota going forward, what this means for Denver going forward. And then we'll talk a little bit about the other game from last night, Knicks, Hawks, New York absolutely trounces and demolishes Atlanta, eliminates the Hawks. They move on to the second round. What a crazy game. But we'll do that. We'll talk about that. And then finally, I'll give you guys a preview and my predictions for tonight's Game 6s. We got Orlando versus Detroit. Game 6 in Orlando. If the Magic win, they go on to the next round. If the Pistons win, they push the series to a 7th game. Same thing, Houston, LA. I know you guys want to hear me talk about that. If Houston wins, we go to Game 7. LA wins, they move on to the next round. And then finally, I said Minnesota plays the OKC earlier. No, Minnesota is going to play the Spurs in the second round. And then the final game that is going to happen tonight, Cleveland, Toronto. Cleveland wins. They go to the second round. Toronto wins. We go to a Game 7. So hopefully we have 4 Game 7s this weekend. We'll see. We'll see what happens tonight. But yeah, that's the agenda for today's episode. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you do, remember, show some love, like, comment, subscribe. Emphasis on subscribe everywhere. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere. Just show love, spread love. Follow on all social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. All I've been posting recently is like reels and clips of the podcast, but we're going to start doing more interactive content, Q&As, polls, stuff like that. So make sure to follow the social media accounts, join the community, and yeah, let's have fun. So yeah, that's today's episode. But before we get into it, I have to give you guys the song of the week. That's a segment I introduced last week on the Friday episode. This week, I kind of cheated a little bit. Instead of a song for the week, I'm going to give you guys songs of the week. So 2 songs. The first song we have is called Splash, the remix by O'Malley featuring G Herbo. Now, O'Malley is one of the hardest rappers out of Philly. He's been that for a long time. G Herbo is on an insane run right now, from albums to mixtapes to features to hit records. Like, Herbo's on a run over the last year and some change. So they got together. Splash remix. If you like drill, if you like hardcore rap music, tap into that. The second song I'm going to give you guys is called Sweet Nothings by Kehlani off her new most recent album that came out last week, self-titled album. The song is called Sweet Nothings by Kehlani featuring Leon Thomas. Now, these are two of the hottest, biggest R&B artists in the game right now. They got together on Kehlani's album. So if you enjoy R&B music, probably already listened to it. But if not, tap in. Hopefully you guys enjoy. And if you do mess with the segment, let me know in the comments and we'll keep it going. Now let's get to Sixers Celtics. Game 6 in Philadelphia. Boston was up 3-2 in this series. 76ers end up taking the victory. Final score 106-93. Now we are at 3-3 in this series. Game 7, Boston on Saturday. Should be a great one. Make sure you guys tap into that. But how did we get here? How did we get to a Game 7? I'll summarize what happened in Game 6, and then I'll give you guys my overall thoughts. First quarter, Sixers came out pretty good. Embiid was getting good shots at the rim. Maxey playing well. Paul George. So they got off to an early lead. Celtics came back. Tatum had a great first quarter, 9 points, 9 rebounds. 9 rebounds is like the most he's had in a quarter in his playoff career. So it looked like he was on the verge of having a big game. But the Celtics take the lead 23-20 after one quarter. Second quarter comes and Philadelphia's offense just starts turning up. Maxey goes crazy. He has 14 points. 14 out of his 30 points come in that second quarter. Philly goes on a run. They go on a run with Joel Embiid on the bench. Actually, Maxey's turning up. Paul George is making shots. Kelly Oubre is making shots. And for the Celtics, they were scoring, but not at the clip that they needed to. So Philly finishes the quarter strong. They take a 9-point lead into halftime. Third quarter is where the game completely gets away from Boston. Philly's defense finally shuts them down. Tatum and Brown were relative no-shows. And a big reason for that is Paul George, who we're going to talk about in a little bit. But George's defense was amazing. He scored 10 points himself in that quarter alone. Embiid was good. Maxey was good. It was a whole team effort for the 76ers. Meanwhile, Boston just could not hit shots. And when the Celtics aren't hitting threes, it'll be a very long night for them. And that's what happened. Tatum ends up leaving the game, goes to the locker room with like maybe 3 or 4 minutes left in the third quarter. He doesn't return to the game. And essentially, the game is done after 3 quarters. Philly ends up taking a 20-point lead into the fourth. 2 minutes into the fourth quarter, Joe Mazzulla takes out all of his starters. So it's the bench guys versus the Philly starters. And for a little bit, the bench for the Celtics is pretty good. So they gave Philly a little scare. I think they went on like an 11-0 run, but Philly kind of calmed the storm. Embiid had a few baskets. Maxey did. And the Sixers take the W. Like I said, now we got a Game 7. So here are my overall thoughts on this game. The first thing that I have to say is Paul George. Paul George has been amazing all series long. Defensively especially, but his offense has been great. He's been hitting shots, been scoring 20 points. Had another, I think he had 23 in this most recent game. So George has been amazing. And he's been amazing ever since he came back from suspension. If you don't know, like Paul George's time in Philly has been weird. When he got there, as the first season he got there last year, hyperextends his knee in the preseason. So he misses some time. When he comes back, he doesn't look like Paul George, regular Paul George, and he wasn't really good the whole year. And it was a bad season overall for Philadelphia last year. So the year ends and people basically write off Paul George. A lot of people said he has one of the five worst contracts in the NBA because of how much money he was owed or he is owed and how poorly he played last year. And people just thought, he's on the downwards trajectory of his career, which is fair. He's been in the NBA for a long time. So no one expected anything from him this year. He comes back at the start of the season, but he's injured. So he plays like maybe a month into the season. He's all right. He's good. However, right after the New Year's, news breaks that George gets suspended for 25 games for using a banned substance and breaking the NBA policy. So he misses. So he gets suspended for 25 games, and everyone's like, "All right, this guy is he's owed so much money." Well, he lost $11 million because of that suspension, but he's owed so much money. He's getting suspended for taking drugs. He hasn't been playing well. Like this, what's wrong with this guy? He comes back from that suspension, and ever since, he has been hooping. I'm talking like he looks like 2017, 2018, 2019 prime Paul George. And it's not just him scoring or playing defense, it's the way he's moving. Like he looks like he's found like newfound energy, newfound life. I'm not going to say it's the drugs because I never want to accuse people of that but since he's come back from suspension, he's looked amazing. In this series, he's looked amazing. The defense that he's playing on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, both of them, has been nothing short of stellar, and he deserves a lot of credit. And if he continues this into Game 7, and then if the Sixers move on into later rounds, Philadelphia has as good of a shot as anybody in the Eastern Conference to make the NBA Finals. Because those four guys, Embiid, Maxey, Paul George, VJ Edgecombe, the four of them, that is the most talented foursome, in the Eastern Conference, if everyone is at full strength. Cleveland has a good one. New York is talented. Boston, but that four that I just said can take that team to the finals. So that was my number one takeaway. Paul George and his resurgence since he's come back from the injury and what he's looked like in this series. My second biggest takeaway is Boston cannot do anything with the Embiid, Tyrese Maxey two-man game. Whether it's Maxey throwing the ball to Embiid at the top of the key and then coming off a handoff into a pick and roll, or just straight right into the pick and roll, the Celtics can't do anything with it because either the Celtics are playing the pick and roll in a drop coverage. And I said in previous episodes, if you play drop coverage on Tyrese Maxey, it's like shooting practice for him. So he'll get to his spots, he'll rise up. Or if two people follow him, if the two defenders follow him on the pick and roll, Embiid will make a short roll to the basket, but he'll stop free throw line area 15 feet. And off that catch and shoot, he is money. Like it's almost unstoppable. Even though it didn't really go in that much last night. That two-man game for Maxey and Embiid is one of the best in the NBA, and Boston hasn't solved it yet. I think the adjustment might be to bring the weak side defender off of Kelly Oubre Jr., and then they can be the low man help. But again, I don't know because Kelly Oubre hasn't been hitting shots like that. But I don't know. That's not up for me to decide. That's Joe Mazzulla's job. But yeah, that's the second biggest takeaway. Maxey and Embiid are destroying the Celtics on that two-man game. My third takeaway is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown need to be absolutely spectacular for the Celtics to win. Like, I'm not talking one of them has 30 points, the other one has 18, 19 points. No, both these guys need to be 25, 30 plus points each if the Celtics want a chance, because the reality is Derek White, as much of an additive player as he is, he just has forgotten to shoot. He's in previous years he's been one of the best shooters in the NBA. This year he's forgotten how to shoot, especially in these playoffs. So they're not getting much help from him. Peyton Pritchard is hit or miss as an offensive player. Mostly hit, but he's coming off the bench, so you don't expect him to score 20 points in a game 7, even though he's capable of doing that. But that's going to be tough. And the Celtics overall team is not that talented. The reason, like, they have overachieved a lot this year, and that's why they've gotten so much love, because they are greater than the sum of their parts. Like, their talent individually isn't great, but they play well together. So that talent deficit is showing, especially in these last few games. So that's why Tatum and Brown need to be the two best players in game 7 in order for the Celtics to win, in my opinion. So those are my three overall thoughts on last night's game. Now, the biggest picture thing that I took from this game is this is Joel Embiid's moment. This is a fork in the road for his career. If you don't know what fork in the road means, it's basically this is the point in his career where it can either go one way or another. Like, you know that scene in Fast and Furious 7 when the See You Again video, when Vin Diesel and Paul Walker, their cars are side by side and then they go off into different directions. That is Embiid's career right now. He's at that moment, because if you know anything about Embiid, this is one of the most, I'm being so serious when I say this. If we're isolating just talent, this is one of the most talented basketball players to ever walk the earth. For his size, 7'1", 7'2", big body, can bully guys, but also has amazing touch, can shoot, score at all 3 levels, 3-point shot, crazy in the mid-range, can dunk on you. In his prime, he was a very crazy defender. So this guy's ultra talented, but his career is so sad because of all the injuries he sustained and how it's held him back. From the second he got drafted in the NBA, missing the first 2 seasons, full seasons of his career because of a foot injury, all the way up to this year, where right before the playoffs, he gets appendicitis and has to get immediate surgery right before the playoffs. I couldn't believe it when I saw the news for that. I'm like, what the hell? Out of all the things, it looked like this guy was finally going to be healthy. So he gets that surgery, and I didn't think he was going to play. So I wrote the Sixers off. And it was going to be again, the dominant story was going to be for Philly this year was, they were talented, but Embiid's injuries again, not able. He can't lead his team past the second round, past the first round. However, he has come back. He came back in game 4 from the appendix surgery. He's been really good. Hasn't been great, but he's been really good for them. And this is his moment. If they win game 7 against Boston, in Boston, he checks that box because he's never beat the Celtics in a series since he's been in the NBA. So he gets that kind of thing off his back. Then second round, they'll play New York. And I said, this team, when those 4 guys are clicking, can beat anybody. So I think the Knicks would be slight favorites in that second round matchup, but Philly has a great chance to win that. So this would be Embiid's chance to make his first conference finals. He's the only MVP in history to never make it past the second round. So he can do that and potentially make his first NBA Finals. And if that happens, the whole narrative around Joel Embiid shifts. It goes from, man, this guy is one of the biggest what ifs in NBA history. If only the injuries didn't get to him, even though he's won an MVP. But it's like, oh man, what could have been with Joel Embiid? It changes. It goes from that to, oh my goodness, we thought this guy was done. Everyone counted him out. We thought the injuries had finally fully caught up to him. And he persevered through all of that and led his team to the NBA Finals. First time Philadelphia would be there since the 2001 season with Allen Iverson. So the whole conversation around Joel Embiid is going to change if he can win this Game 7 against Boston and then go a little bit further. And I'm rooting for him because I've enjoyed watching Joel Embiid play basketball. If you like basketball, I know a lot of people, especially there was a specific point where he was doing a lot of the foul baiting stuff and flopping, and he's like the big man version of Shea that people, would talk about. But him purely as a basketball player is just, it's a treat to watch him play. And I want to see him go and have at least one deep run in his career. And I think this could be it. It would be a crazy comeback story from the surgery right before the playoffs to coming back mid-series and then leading his team to the finals. That would be great. So this is the fork in the road moment for Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers. Yeah, but hopefully Philly can get it done in Game 7. I'm rooting for them openly. I don't care. Sorry. I don't like Boston. Celtics fans, don't get at me, but it's the reality. So that's what I think. Those are my overall thoughts on Sixers Celtics going into Game 7 on Saturday. So we'll see what happens in that. Moving on to the next game, the Minnesota Timberwolves officially eliminate and dispatch of the Denver Nuggets in Game 6 to move on to the second round. Final score for this game, 110-98. And my biggest takeaway from this game is it's very appropriate that the name for this team is the Timberwolves. Because last night and this whole series, those boys played like some dogs, straight up. For them they're missing their best player, Anthony Edwards, who hyperextended his knee in Game 4. He was out and been out for the whole series, or since then. Dante DiVincenzo, their second best guard, ruptures his Achilles in that same game. Anthony Edwards gets injured, so they're missing their two best guards. Then, news breaks yesterday that Ayo Dosunmu, who is their backup guard that they acquired midway through the year, he's going to be out. And this is the same guy who dropped 42 points in Game 4 against Denver to beat them. 42 points. Third highest or the third person to do that in NBA history coming off the bench. He's out. So now Minnesota is down their three best guards. And still, the whole story of this series is Denver could not stop Minnesota from getting to the basket, getting to the paint. They were coming off pick and rolls. They were attacking Jokic on the pick and rolls, getting easy baskets, hitting their threes when they had to. Jaden McDaniels was amazing for them. He had a playoff career high 32 points. And shout out to Jaden McDaniels, because you have to give a guy props when someone talks as much shit as he has this series, and for him to back it up the way he has, to close the Nuggets out with a 32-point performance yesterday. Salute to him. He was a dog. Terrence Shannon Jr., who never started a playoff game in his career. This is only his second season in the NBA. Gets the start because of the Ayo Dosunmu injury, and he comes in. He scores 24 points, and it wasn't just like a quiet 24. It was a loud 24. Hit a big N1 in the fourth quarter. Hit a big three in the fourth quarter. He was great, and he really embodied the next man up mentality for Minnesota. Naz Reid, again, amazing. Former Six Man of the Year winner. Gobert, another impeccable defensive performance on Jokic, even though Jokic finished with 27 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists. It was still like, if you watch the game, Jokic did not dominate the way he usually does. And that's been the story all series. And that's the defense that Gobert has played on Jokic. So it was a full collective team effort. Julius Randle had some big shots in the fourth quarter. So it was a collective team effort for Minnesota. And you have to just give them massive credit, massive props. Head coach Chris Finch, I mean, what he's done for this team. He doesn't get talked about a lot as one of the best coaches in the league, but every year for the last 2 years, he's one of the 4 coaches left. He's taken them to the conference finals in back-to-back years. Both years, no one expected them to get there. So overachievement twice. And then this year, no one expected them to beat Denver. Even without the Anthony Edwards injury, people thought they would still lose. They would lose this series to the Nuggets. So again, all the Timberwolves have done over the past 3 years has been overachieving and surpassing expectations. And I don't think they have gotten enough credit for doing that, including by myself. Like, I'll take accountability for that as well. But what they've done, what they did in this series to the Nuggets, man, respect to them, salute. They're some dogs. And they're going to play San Antonio in the next series. We'll see if Anthony Edwards comes back. But even without Anthony Edwards, and I know the Spurs have looked amazing, but Minnesota, they're just a team that fights. They're tough, and they're not going to go down without a fight. Even though they might be outmatched talent-wise from the Spurs, they won't be outfought. So we'll see. That'll be a good series. Hopefully Anthony Edwards comes back. So those are my thoughts on the Minnesota side. On the Denver side, this is a catastrophic loss and collapse for this team. Let's not even include the fact that they were favored to start the series, right? They won their last 12 games in the regular season. They were on a hot streak. Some people picked them to make the championship or to make the finals. Some people picked them to win the championship. And not only do they lose with the other team's best player and 3 best guards being out for the last few games of the series. It's inexcusable. It's indefensible what the Nuggets did. It's an indictment on the whole organization. And I'm not even trying to be extra with it, but you can't. This is now 3 years in a row since they won the championship that they've had an exit in the playoffs that is not becoming of who they are talent-wise. So this is a huge indictment on them. Jamal Murray had a really tough game, a few tough games in this series. 12 points, 4 for 17 shooting. Like, I mean, I love Jamal Murray. I've watched him since he was at Orangeville Prep, but the Timberwolves are a bad matchup for him. And it showed. Jaden McDaniels shut him down. And for Jokic, that's it. No more best player in the world talk. I don't want to hear it from anybody, any talk show host or sports show, podcast, nothing. You can't keep getting bounced early in the playoffs, being favored to win, and then losing, looking how he looked in this series specifically, and you can't, and then be called the best player in the world when Shea is doing what he's doing, what Wembanyama is doing what he's doing. So that's it for that. I don't know if he'll ever see another conference finals or finals again. He's just too great of a player to fully count him out. But it's not looking the greatest for the Nuggets. Tough way for them to lose. And honestly, if there are no big changes this year or in the offseason for them, I don't see anything different happening for them next year. Jokic is, again, I've said this before, Jokic is only getting older. The teams who are who've already surpassed them are only getting better. So yeah, at least to the Denver Nuggets fans, at least you got 2023. So you can hold your head on that. But yeah, so Minnesota advances. Denver bounced out early. We got Timberwolves, Spurs game 1 on Monday. Should be a good series. I'm excited for that. Now let's get into the most boring but crazy game of the night. New York, Atlanta, game 6. New York absolutely throttles, demolishes. I'm talking belt to ass, everything that you can think of. What they did to Atlanta yesterday was, in some countries and some places of the world, it would be unspeakable. But final score for this one: Knicks 140, Atlanta 89. 51-point deficit, 51-point blowout. Only 5 other games in the history of the NBA playoffs have bigger blowouts than what transpired last night. Man, and this was from the jump. First quarter, New York scores the first 5 points. Atlanta then goes on a 10-0 run. So it's 10-5. From that point on in the first quarter, the Knicks go on a 31-4 run. 31-4. They outscored them by 27 points. The score at the end of the first quarter was 41-15. 26 points they were winning by. And OG came out hot. I think part of it is because of what Anne Hathaway said about him on Jimmy Fallon's show. Jimmy Fallon. So OG came out hot, 5 of 6 from the field in the first quarter. I think he had like 12 or 14 points. The whole team came out hot, to be honest. The Knicks couldn't miss. The Hawks, all they did was miss. You would think it was going to the Hawks would come back a little bit in the second quarter. Nope. The Knicks ran it up even more. The run went from 31-4 at the end of the quarter to 38-4. The score was 61-19 at one point, bro. Do you know how crazy that is for a playoff game? 61. Oh, my apologies. 62-19. They were up by 43 points midway through the second quarter. The Hawks had 19 points. They just couldn't get anything going. McCollum, Johnson, Alexander Walker, they just couldn't get anything going, and it showed for the Hawks. All right? So the most entertaining part of this game was like a fight in the second quarter between Mitchell Robinson and Dyson Daniels. Robinson and Daniels, they get like tangled up at the free throw line. They like shove each other, both get ejected from the game. It wasn't that deep, but obviously Daniels is frustrated that his team is down by 40 points in a closeout game. Robinson was just, being his enforcer self. And they got ejected, and it was the most entertaining part of the game. Um, the other most entertaining part was Jalen Brunson and Boosie. Boosie Badass, if you guys know who it is, the rapper. They got into like a little, like they bumped each other, and then Boosie fell on the floor and was acting like he was injured. It was weird. But listen to what I'm saying. Like this was the most entertaining part of the whole game. But Knicks put belt to ass. They move on to the second round. For Atlanta, although this was a very ugly way for them to end their season, this was a step in the right direction. Not this game specifically, but the season. They moved on from Trae Young. They're in the Jalen Johnson, Nickeil Alexander-Walker era. And they have a bright future. It didn't look bright yesterday, but they have a bright future. I'm excited to see what they look like. But yeah, tough loss for them. For New York, if they play like this, I know I said Philly has the best foursome pause in the NBA, but if New York plays like this, it will be hard for anyone to stop them from getting to the finals. I don't think anybody in the East can win the championship, but they could make the finals if they play like this. They don't even have to play like this, like 80% of this. But yeah, so those were the games from last night. We got one game 7, 2 series ended, and hopefully tonight we get 3 more game 7s. First, we got Orlando, Detroit, game 6 in Orlando. Detroit's fighting to extend the series to game 7. I hope they win because I picked the Pistons to make the finals, even though if they win this series, I don't think they're going to make it. But the way they looked in game 5, it was all about Cade Cunningham. Cade had 45 points, went crazy. Jalen Duren had it by far his best game of the year. And my heart wants to say Detroit's going to win tonight's game, but my head is telling me Orlando closes it out. I don't think Paolo is going to play as good as he did in game 5. Paolo had 45, so him and Cade, both had 45 points in the last game. But I don't think he'll play that well. But I think he'll be great though. And I think Desmond Bane won't be in foul trouble as much. And I just feel like role players and the guys coming off the bench feed off that crowd's energy in a game like game 6. So I think the home crowd is going to help the Magic. I think the role players are going to be better. I think Desmond Bane and Paolo will help elevate them. And I just think the burden is too much on Cade Cunningham on the offensive end. Is it possible that he scores 45 again? Maybe. I think it's highly unlikely, but it's just too much for him to handle night in and night out, and I don't think he'll be able to do it tonight. So I think Orlando closes it out in game 6, and they move on to the next round to play either Cleveland or Toronto. Speaking of Cleveland, Toronto, they have game 6 tonight as well. Game 6 in the 6. Again, that was mad corny, but it is what it is. Toronto, I'm hoping they extend this to a game 7, but I just don't think it's gonna happen. Same thing like for the other series. The injuries have just caught up to them. Last time I checked, Brandon Ingram is still questionable, but without him, even though he hasn't been great this series, Scotty Barnes was hobbled in the fourth quarter of the last game. And you could tell, like, the Raptors on offense, sometimes it just looks really, really bad. In the fourth quarter against Cleveland, they had a 9-point lead, and it evaporated like that because the Raptors can't generate good shots consistently sometimes. It's like RJ Barrett driving to the basket, and, like, sometimes he'll throw up a wild shot. The defense will collapse on him. Guys can't hit shots besides Jamison Battle for some reason. But I just don't think the Raptors have enough, especially if Ingram's out and if Barnes isn't at 100%. We'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I think Cleveland closes it out unless playoff James Harden makes an appearance. You never know with that guy. So sadly, Cleveland takes the W 4-2 in this series and they move on to the next round. But at least Toronto showed fight. Hopefully I'm wrong, though. And now the final series that I have to talk about. Final game of tonight, Houston, LA. I try to tell you guys. I try to tell y'all, man. A lot of y'all thought I was crazy for picking the Rockets to come back from a 3-0 deficit. A lot of y'all thought I was crazy for picking them to win Game 5 in LA. But what happened? They did. Reed Shepherd showed up. Jabari showed up. Şengün played pretty good. And it was just a good overall team win for the Rockets. And I try to tell you, LeBron is not going to get more energetic as the series goes on. He's going to get more tired. That's just what happens. I get it's LeBron James, but you could tell he tried to come out with energy in the first quarter, and all his shots are short. So I don't think it will be anything different tonight. Kennard and Smart, I told you. They're going to regress to the means, and that's what's happened. Austin Reeves came back. I didn't think that was going to happen, but still, he didn't look the greatest. He scored 20, but a lot of it was free throws. So, with that being said, this is my opportunity, now that I know that Austin Reeves is back, to retract on my Lakers blowing a 3-0 lead statement and the Rockets coming back. This is my opportunity to recant that. Hell no, I'm not doing. Are you crazy? I'm 10 toes down. I told you I'm standing on that. 3-0 comeback, first time in NBA history. Rockets about to win tonight. I want to predict blowout. Fuck yeah. I'll put 10 to 15 point win for the Rockets tonight in Houston. They come out, feed off the crowd's energy. Şengün is great. Jabari's hitting shots. Reed Shepherd's hitting threes. Tari Eason playing with that energy, that dog. And LeBron looks old. Reeves has another bad shooting night. And the Rockets win, force a Game 7 on Sunday. And if that happens and they win that Game 7, make sure you tune in to Monday's episode. Like I said, we are about to go on a generational run for this podcast. If the Rockets complete that comeback, and it continues tonight, Game 6 in Houston, make sure y'all tap in. I'm going to put like a poll up for on the Instagram story, TikTok. So I want to know some of y'all thoughts. But yeah, that's what I think is going to happen in this series. All the games for tonight. Those are my predictions. And that concludes today's episode of Noel's podcast. I appreciate everyone for sticking around. If you stuck around to this point, thank you for showing love. Keep doing so. Keep spreading the word. Let people know. And yeah, we're going to keep running it up. So yeah, enjoy your weekend. Watch basketball. Watch some hoops. Lock in, and I'll see you guys next week. Enjoy. Be safe. I'm going to holla at y'all.